Hey everybody, and welcome back to another casted game at Age of Bison. We have been working really hard, especially Sir Shark Dad, with getting a bunch of videos out for Civ spotlights, in-depth guides, and so while he's doing all the hard work, I've decided to kind of keep the casting going along, mainly focusing on 1v1s here for the next few weeks. So, uh, you guys may or may not be familiar with my co-caster, but I am joined here today by Big Pete. Pete, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Pistol Pete in in-game name, but yeah, sometimes Big Pete, Purple Pete, etc.
Well,
So
you've carried me plenty of times for that moniker. And here today we have a submitted cast video. So this is Dutch and Otto. This is a not exactly the most common matchup. Ottoman may be a popular civ, but Dutch not always seen as the highest rated civ. Um, Despite the fact that they've remained relatively kind of in like the mid tiers throughout DE. So I'm definitely looking forward to this cast. This is on, I believe, Sicily. Yep. So hopefully we will see a really good game. I'm going to start the countdown now. So Pete, you've played this game for a long time. What are your thoughts on the Ottoman Dutch matchup?
well, to be truth be told, I don't play either of the civs in a 1v1 setting, but I guess like my quick take is uh I would expect Otto wants to win this game in an earlier rather than a late stage. Just due to the nature of the map, it's small. There's not a whole lot of hunts. Dutch isn't going to be as food intensive, and there's a real opportunity to really lock Dutch into the back of his map. So, I mean, I don't think I see too many auto players rush, but we could potentially see a nice FF timing with cannons that could come in. I mean, but let's be honest here, Auto has a lot of different possibilities and what they can do with builds these days, from early rushes to F-highs, so it'll be interesting to see the approach that it looks like we have Bandit will take here. We'll take a look at his deck here in a second and see if it gives any clues.
Exactly. It looks like he's opening without a trade post. Interestingly enough, mosque. The standard Ottoman build is one TP, one house, one mosque, right? Chopping 50 wood, but he's instead elected for just the house and is saving the 100 wood. So we'll see if he's, going to be kind of cooking something up here in a minute. And his deck is in, so we will start here with Bandit's deck.
1v1 rank. I didn't get quite a good look at the deck, but it looked like he did have
Yeah,
capitalism in there,
sorry
so it'll
about
be
that. I stopped. Looks like there was an Explorer fight that did not go well for Bandit. So back to the deck.
interesting. He's got theaters in there. I don't know if that means he's got some sort of outlaw strategy in mind. What are the outlaws on this?
Well, it's hard for us to tell, but typically, if we go here, the Outlaws is the Desert Warrior and the Desert Archer, which are
No.
kind of underutilized these days, but were considered overpowered a few patches back. So we may see that being utilized, and he's going to age up with the Quartermaster for 400 wood. All right, Dutch. This looks fairly standard Dutch deck to me. It's got all the age 2 cards you'd expect to see. I guess except for instead of 8 pike, he does have the Irish Brigadiers instead in age 2. Um, age 3, all standard. Nothing too new. Dutch did get a little bit of a rework recently, and I don't see any of the Blue Guard or Revolt cards. I believe those are all kind of considered niche, though.
Yeah, it looked like a reasonably standard deck. I mean, I don't always see Swiss pikes in there, but it looked like he had some Swiss pikes, so he's got a couple of different Merc shipments in there to give him a power spike at any given point in time, and maybe that's a good idea on this map, because like I said, there's not that many hunts, and the hunts are deers, which can also be a bit frustrating because they don't have as much food per unit, and they tend to run a bunch of different ways on the map. So maybe both of these players have a strategy in mind that they're going to be focusing on more gold intensive units here if we see outlaws or something like that, but we'll see.
Right. Noticing looks like Ottoman's already taken the second trade post. One thing you can use against Dutch is kind of assume that they'll play passive, right? And without seeing 8 pikes in the deck, he probably figures Dutch is just going to want to, the terminology often uses the bank spank, but basically, Dutch will be focusing entirely on producing these banks as much as they can. And so locking down a trade post for Ottoman can be really beneficial, although he's not gathering. Okay, there he goes. Now he's gathering the crates, perhaps for a stagecoach.
Coming in with capitalism. Yeah, if he upgrades this TP line, I like it because it'll give him a little bit more eco. He's sending in capitalism, so whatever type of push he does, it probably won't be an all-in, and that TP is pretty far up the map, and it's kind of giving him line of sight on 2 hunts there that Dutch would, I guess maybe not especially early because they produce their builds with gold, but at some point you would think Dutch would want to expand to get those hunts if this game were to go into the mid to late term. So.
Second, looks like Adwana doing standard Dutch stuff so far. He is aged up with Quartermaster. The only difference is he's building a Rax. He does not have a second bank quite yet, but he's about to. And yeah, he's got his envoy. Looks like he's trying to herd in this kind of forward hunt, which can be a bit tricky because these things do love to wander.
This is just speculation on my point, but maybe the Dutch player is recognizing that Otto's put up 2 TPs and is doing a bit more of an economically oriented build, and maybe he's concluding that gives him a little bit more time to throw up some banks before throwing a military building, but I can't say. I would really know 100% with the Fog of War. Otto is just one of those civs that can just spit stuff out, do a lot of things at the same time.
It's exactly true. And if you think about it, like, you're just saying Ottoman can spit stuff out. They have really strong shipments. And when you've got 2 trade posts and a mosque, which gives you a little bit more than your normal church, like your shipment curve is going to be very powerful. And so with Dutch, you kind of have to hit that, like, in my opinion, right balance between tempo or getting to age 3 where you're your most powerful versus getting the economic base to be able to replenish losses, because the Ottoman units are very strong, but their economy behind it should be inferior to the Dutch players.
I wonder if Otto should have used Silk Road. I don't know. It's tough to have an infinite amount of decks in there, but with Silk Road, if he's going to upgrade that TP line, I wonder if that would have maybe worked out a bit better for him as an eco play. But sending capitalism is a guaranteed trickle that your opponent can't raid. So
it looks like he's gonna just build a batch. Or so Dutch here, Adwana, building just a batch of pikes, probably gonna siege down that trading post. So it looks like he did not get stagecoach. So perhaps Ottoman just wanting the tempo and kind of acknowledging that, hey, if Dutch builds pikes, that's less wood for economic upgrades, for banks, for other uses.
Can you check and see if he's researching it per chance?
Yes. Looks like he could if he wanted to, but he has chosen not to.
Yes. So it's looking like his choice to send capitalism here is the correct one if he wasn't planning on aggressively defending the TPs as much.
Dutch, though, fully banked spanked with 5 banks already now at 730 and macroing pretty close, I'd say, to being able to age up soon.
Yeah, that's impressive. I like to think of TPs as 2 vills, so he's done a very greedy build and managed to get a little bit of eco off of Otto, so Otto's gonna need to do something to get some punishment on Dutch once he gets to age 3, because otherwise Dutch is gonna have too much scale with his eco to be able to keep up with him.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at Bandit, he is now getting the first mosque upgrade, so his TCs come out. He's sending, looks like 700 wood, which he could have just kept. and used for the 1,000 wood, right? Because by the time it arrived, a few seconds later, he's now age 3, but does get these deli. One of the best
Yeah.
cavalry units in the game, but looks like Dutch is going to take this market down, and he's got good value now out of those 5 pikes.
Yeah, it depends. I don't know. He maybe wants to send that 700 wood for the tempo. I mean, he's already housed. You know, if he can get a second TC up that early, if he's gonna take that path to this game, although I'm not sure that works into Dutch, but I could see why he sends a 700 wood over 1,000 wood.
And it looks like
Also-
Dutch now also hitting age 3. Dutch fully banked. No stable out yet, but I assume the 1,000 wood, a lot of it's going to be going towards the bank. And, you know, he's just not building any military units. You know, both sides seem content to kind of get their feet settled.
Yeah,
Perha-
Dutch suspiciously looks like he's trying to macro for industrial. So I wonder what his thinking is on this.
Yeah, typically an age 4 versus auto is dangerous because the Ottoman age 4 pops are just brutal, you know, for lack of a better term. Okay. Got a batch of halberdiers out. Ooh. Protects the Ville. Explorer goes down. Yeah, those Obus getting a little bit of value. I didn't see any dead Vills, but it's a lot of idle time. And again, 23 villagers are idle, but the banks continue to be banks.
Well, it's forced him to make some units, and so if he wanted to go into wow, we have an industrial from the auto. Okay. And if Dutch was trying to go industrial, the auto forcing him to make a few units there has prevented him from doing that.
All right, not to mention called Minutemen, perhaps a bit prematurely because those Minutemen, yeah.
That's too much.
But, you know, hindsight's 2020. That's the caster privilege.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes the stable.
So he's stacking up a lot of res. I'd like for him to either commit to H3 and get some material out on the map, you know, in terms of units, or build some houses, I guess, for the cap space and just continue to macro to 4. How did his deck look like? Did he have a lot of H4 shipments?
To be honest, not
He's
really.
got 2 heavy cannons. I mean, that's something.
Well, and you do have the church card, which in age 4 sends, what, 30 blue guard for 2,000 coin?
Okay. Yeah, I did have a Dutch player that went industrial on me, and all of a sudden I was looking at musketeers and red lancers and stuff like that, and I don't really understand where the build comes from. So maybe he's got something like that in mind.
Yeah. But, you know, and again, this is what makes this map kind of risky. You know, autos now. I like how Ottoman's kind of expanding out the town centers now to get this hunt and this gold mine secure because, as you said, on this map, there's not a lot of hunts and it's really easy to just kind of run out and get contained on this map. It's very much like an old school RE map in that regards where the hunts are far and few between.
Yeah. Wonder what he's planning to do with all this gold. He's got a lot of resources stacked.
Now,
That Otto's macro looks a little bit cleaner, stacking a little bit of food, but maybe he's saving it for a Spahi pop or something.
yeah, because it looks like first thing he sends is 12 obus. You send 1,000 wood and get guard obus, perhaps, but I think he's going to ship the 6
He's gonna
Spahi.
ship the 6 Spahi, which is, well, I don't know. He's just macroed himself off of food, so I don't know what his plan is anymore.
Fascinating. He does have to be careful. Dutch now starting to kind of, you know, commit to the battlefield. These guard Spahi, of course, you know, Spahi Shadow Tech, they go up every age that they're in. They heal, they do AoE damage like a Cuirassier. They slice, they dice, they're great. Obus Gunners, without a doubt, I think the best skirm pound for pound in the game as of this casting. Ooh, what did he send that village? Okay. not quite sure what's going on there, but so now he's shipping cav archers, and let's see what Adwana is doing. Oh, he's sending the blue guard. I think that is not blue guard. Sorry, the Bosniaks. These guys are so good, man. Like even
Well,
high-level Dutch play has been like revolutionized by getting access to this.
Otto has a decent amount of anti-cav, I would say, or things that can deal. Well, the Reuters might split them apart. Dutch might look pretty good here, I think. If I were Dutch, I'd be wanting to get in there.
So yeah, it's probably it. They must have been talking about something or
Get. Yeah, that's good. He's got the Bosniaks on the Abus.
promoting
Reuters
to.
again. And I don't. The auto player needs to be shooting the Abus at the Reuters a little bit more. Wow. You know, I mean, the Dutch player, not critical because I'm known to stack resources myself, but seems that allowing Dutch to get all those banks early is just probably allowed his eco to get into overdrive here.
I think so. You know, Ottoman's now going to be in the tough spot where even though, like, if you look at the villager, I mean, yeah, it's 35 to 34 villagers, but Dutch has what, 5 banks? Each bank's like worth 4-ish vills, so Dutch is like almost 50 to 60% more eco. And ooh, if these vills go, that's going to be even tougher. But Ottoman now getting the church thing, I believe he's going to get Nizams and pop Minutemen here soon.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and my ultimately point being is even though Dutch is maybe not macro as strong, he's still been able to spend enough resources to have more material than Otto does on the map. He's got a 9k score lead, so he's gonna have to pull a rabbit out of the hat or something, and maybe that's gonna come in the way of a good trade with it. Looked like some bombards were somehow coming in, but I don't know what's gonna defend
Oh,
them.
the Nizams. Remember, these things attack all cavalry at range.
Well, they're a unit that I don't understand. They have like a bunch of different stances, and depending on what their stance is, they like counter a bunch of different things. So that's gonna be tough for Dutch to deal with.
Well, what's also tough for Dutch though is these Reuters they're kind of squishy and they don't. I don't know if they have less or it's just because of the lower base damage, but they don't do as good against artillery. So like a big unit like the Great Bombard here can absolutely make mincemeat out of those Reuters when there's like a bunch of them. You know, like Dutch is gonna have to get culverins here if Otto sends 2 bombards next.
I wonder why Otto tried to push before he had all this stuff out. It didn't seem like it took much longer afterwards, and I feel like if he had all those cav archers and stuff to supplement what he has now, would have been a much stronger push.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the classic, you know, hindsight's 2020, right? Because with the Dutch eco, if you're Ottoman, you know, again, traditionally Otto wants to close out this fight before the banks pay off, right? Because Otto eco scales kind of slowly. But he's on one town center. He's going to have weaker eco than Dutch on just one town center, let alone with the 5 banks producing coin and coin that can't be rated, right? So, you know, it looks like now Dutch is going to switch over to hand cav. I do like that addition, even though again these Nizams are going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think Otto needs to get in there and get as many banks down as he can before he's looking at a bunch of culverins and whatnot. I wouldn't even unpack the cannons. I would just send him forward, get these vills. He needs to be ripping down infrastructure while he can.
Exactly. Houses, racks, banks.
Just picked up 5 vills or so. I'm just curious, what's the relative vill count here? So Otto's got 5 more vills, but Dutch is sitting on probably 33 plus 20. What do we say? It's 4 or 5 vills per bank. It's 5,
It's
right?
usually like 4. Yeah, 4 base, 5 with the 5 or 6 with the tulip speculation card. But I mean, really, if Dutch can just age up.
I want to say that it's 5, but we'd have to ask Dynamite is the expert on the
Exactly. If someone in the
math of the
comment
thing.
section, you're more than welcome to correct us. Math is not my strong suit. Um, that being said, okay,
I wouldn't take the town center. I would hit the banks
and the
or even
racks.
houses, unless he thinks that he's gonna stop a big shipment from coming in, which
Or an age up.
yeah, that's possible. Maybe that's what's going through his head. Is Dutch aging?
Not that I saw, although Dan Dutch has had the macro for it from time to
Yeah,
time. But it looks
no,
like Dutch now.
aging.
Ooh, trying to get the surround off. Let's see if this works. This should be fun.
Okay. Wow.
Look at them all. Charge the
He's got a
hounds.
oh my gosh.
Oh, but those skirms will kill the Nizam, but the Reuters are almost all toast.
The,
And if
the heavy cannons should be able to wipe out all those skirms, so it looks like he's held. Wow. That
holy
looked like a
smokes,
really scary push from Dutch, but my goodness.
Adwana
Yeah.
says what? We agree. I think Adwana just there was a little bit miscalculation there. Okay, but he's still got a large army, so he's definitely not out of this fight. He's just got it without a town center. You know, he's got to get a shipment point up somehow. Maybe build a tower. He's got all this coin. It looks like he's just charging him in now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Gotta spread his skirms, I think. This dance, I think he's just trying to whittle the force down, but I think once he saw the great bombards, it looks like it was a mistake not dropping down an artillery foundry for some culverins, because this is looking pretty bleak for him now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean it just takes a 5 batch of Huss to clear out. Oh no.
Or one Spahi.
Yeah. Like I wish we get like the Jaws music. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, bandits. Like this is like the Jaws, man. These things are about to just. Oh, but is he trying to? Ooh. Oh, he's got the pikemen.
Those pikes?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, they're coming out of this tower here. If he can hold.
That'll be a great pop if he's able to pull that off.
He needs to spend this coin too.
Oh wow, if he cleans up the Spahi, that would give him a path back into it. Yeah, so I understand why he's keeping the Hussars there. He's trying to keep everybody
Like tied up.
tight.
Come on. Come on. Here they go.
Here they come. I think he's, and if Otto's got his eyes away, and why wouldn't he? Because like there's no risk right there. Like I should say.
What?
Wait a minute. Wait. So wait, who resigned? Oh,
Okay, Dutch.
Otto won.
Otto was. So that was just the charge of the pikes.
Okay. Yeah, he's in a tough spot. Even with wiping out the Spahi, the Swiss pikes aren't gonna do well into Abus and the bombards.
Man, he was close though. Like, so first off, look at the HP left. Like, if he just microed a bit better, even just, use the coin to sell in the market, right? This is something I think Dutch players in particular forget. Like, market rates aren't great. It's not efficient, but if you've got 3 coins saved up, and you're in this position, right? Like, wouldn't that 3 coin have been better as food to keep producing Hussar? Especially into this, like 10 more Huss plus these pikes, and I think he actually cleans and holds.
Yeah, I mean, like Otto on his push, he got all the Dutch vills off of food there. I mean, there's just some like in team games, for instance, on I want to say it's California, where you run out of food real quick. I feel like a good Dutch strategy is kind of you hold until your food is all out, and you just kind of have a a little bit of anti-cav and you push with a bunch of cannon, and I think he might have been a bit better off with making some Colves to try to at least whittle down those bombards. I think he had enough anti-cav to deal with the Spahi, but yeah, if you're stacking 3k gold at the end of the game, it's not a good feeling because that could have been invested into units.
Exactly. Definitely a close one from our Dutch player. And again, this is a tough matchup. I think Otto did a great job of like not panicking, just continuing to pop, like you said at the beginning of the game. And he lost his starting town center. It was looking pretty grim. And I think this is something that some people would say is frustrating, but I do think the core concept of the redesign is good for Ottoman in a lot of ways. This is how Ottoman now has this like tempo, these pulses. And you really have to respect the pulses, you know what I mean? Like, and by pulse, I mean it's like just a sudden burst of units, usually Spahi, but especially from the mosque, like these. I don't know if there's any Nizam alive. There they are. They're behind the trees, bashful little guys. Um, again, these are like old Corollians, right? And they have different stances, if I remember correctly, that can change the range or change. They're a little bit faster. They've got really good hand attack. They can charge really fast with like a big button, like again, like the Corollians. And I mean, that's a lot of HP for a musketeer. So I think
And
ultimately Ottoman was just able to leverage his game strategy, which was get to H4, get all the powerful pops, and make sure the game ends before Dutch eco plus units equals my strength of my like units in H4.
yeah, he had some serious pops there, and they all complement each other. He's got a super musketeer, a super cannon, and a super hussar. And I really liked Dutch's early opening into all this, recognizing that he wasn't going to come under pressure right away. He got the 5 banks up. He took down the spare TP from Ottoman. I think he even took out a market. And then, sometimes when you just hit and kind of run into those strong units, it can be kind of tough to recover once they kind of dwindle your force a little bit there. I mean, I think kind of my comment for the Dutch player is try to spend more of your resources as they come in, because having resources stacked is like having idle vills. And if he had more material out, maybe even without the Colves, he could have maybe at least traded evenly with Otto's power spike there.
I
So that was
agree.
a good back and forth game.
It was, both players had some good strategies. Callan once said something that I think is absolutely true and ingenious in its simplicity. But the difference between a good player and a great player is great players macro with a purpose. And kind of there towards the middle after that push, we saw that Dutch was stacking resources, and Dutch could have gone to H4, upgraded some of his units, and then had that big fight where he actually had the bigger military mass and won. And I think Otto macro was with a purpose. Like he was always trying to get, whether it was the extra trade post, whether it was getting the mosque pops, and whether then it was being able to afford the Spahi shipments. Like he was always keeping his economy focused. So even though he was outgathered pretty heavily economically, it was a lot more efficient. So even though like the military population, right, was actually in Dutch's favor at times, and the resource gather, you know, was heavily in Dutch's favor. He was just able to use it more efficiently. So absolutely great job again by both of these players. I definitely think they showed a lot of skill in the early game, especially recognizing and responding to their opponents. These guys weren't just botting builds, but they were trying to maneuver around each other. And those are just the really fun games. I mean, it sounds like they were talking too. So I hope these guys had a blast. It was definitely a blast casting it. Pete, do you have any closing thoughts before I send us out?
No, yeah, it looks like they had some banter during the game and had a good time. I liked Dutch's opening, and Otto had a great response and strong finish. So great game to view here.
Exactly. Great game. Well, if you've gotten this far, please leave a like and subscribe or a comment down in the section. Really appreciate both players, Bandit and Adwana, for letting us cast this. And of course, if you guys stumble upon this video, please give us your thoughts, and we'd love to hear it. So, for everybody else, like I said, we will be coming out with those Civ overview videos sprinkled with the usual kind of content. We're going to try to get some out here, get back in the groove of things while the Sir Shark Dad takes on the Herculean task of learning a build for every Civ. So, thank you all, and I hope to see you on the next one.